When I went out on the land, you could really sense how the landscape moved and the different elements of the landscape, whether it was the trees and the grasses or the ponds and the hills. They really worked with each other and they would appear and reappear. And it was just a little bit of a magical type of experience to see and really sense and kind of connect with the calming nature of it. When I talked to the land manager of Mahr Park, I got to touch on some of the farming practices that Glima used at Mahr Park in the past. And she used rotational grazing that really touches base with what I'm interested in and what my background is understanding. And the fact that she was using rotational grazing for years in raising pastured animals as cattle that are Black Angus really shows that she was a steward of the land from the get-go, that she understood that she could use the land for a purpose of farming, which could have economical, but also have environmental and ecological benefits as well. And you can see just how the landscape is used, and they didn't take out all the trees. They leave a few of the elements of the landscape there. They have ponds, and they kept those, and they understood the reasoning of why, the function that they could serve for the entire farm as a whole. Seeing how the past practices that they used on the farming land at Mahr Park, you can see how the guiding principles come into play. The land stewardship came in decades ago, and that's something, if you can continue to implement those type of practices and those philosophies, those principles, it will protect this land and make it functioning for hundreds of years in the future. Based on my studies and what I have learned through my own research, is that there's really been a neglect on all the holistic parts of the environment going on. And a lot of science is really focused on the three main elements to grow plants at the fastest rate: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And NPK, as a lot of people know them as. But there's a lot of other micronutrients and other things that are in play that can really benefit the health of a plant and how well it grows, or anything that eats that plant as well. And it's really important to be working as an entire system and not be focusing on just one or two parts. The entire system that I'm talking about is very complex, and it's something that not myself or anyone can really fully understand. And that's what's important, why we should be protecting it. Because we don't fully understand it, we can't replace it exactly. But the whole system, to give you a better idea, is starting out with the sunlight, interacting with the base minerals and elements that are existing in the soil or the environment. And then it can grow into grass and vegetation and other plants, but still including things that we might not think about too much. The microbiota, bacteria, fungi, insects. Often we forget about them and neglect them, that they're part of the system and that they can be useful or they can be damaging. And then it goes up to more noticeable, such as animals and birds and fish in the ecosystem. So the entire system is really that ecosystem. One thing on the landscape that really caught my eye was the use of water features and how those all kind of fit in with watershed. And Madisonville has a beautiful watershed that's happening with Lake Pewee and the surrounding areas. And a watershed really is how water hits in precipitation or in groundwater moisture and is a part of the landscape, and it eventually keeps accumulating into one source. And you can see that on the landscape here, that there's little ponds around the farm, or there's drainage ditches that when rain hits a hillside, it will be moving down and be collecting with other rain that hit somewhere else, and eventually collecting into a bigger body of water. And all those time that is traveling to that bigger body of water, it can be picking up pollutants and toxins or anything. It could be picking up beneficial things as well. So the fact that you can protect between the beginning and the end really is important, protecting watershed, and especially here, since Lake Pewee, the end of the watershed, is used as a drinking source of water for the town of Madisonville. I feel that Mahr Park can really connect with future generations because it is right in the backyard of Madisonville in a sense. And it has that legacy that is being touched on so much when I've been here, that it's a part of the community. And part of the Mahrs, we're part of the community giving back, and now the community is going to give back to the park and to the farm. And it can really be useful for the community as a sense of an area to go and connect with nature, but as more directed at education or recreation or even demonstration that can really be effective. I really appreciate and I'm honestly honored to be invited to come here and give my input into the development of the Mahr Park legacy and the future of the project.